Hello there, again! Today I'm going to talk about the Season 3 of Battlestar Galactica. This video follows my previous videos about Season 1 and 2. I made a playlist of videos about Battlestar Galactica for your convenience, so feel free to check it out. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. At the beginning of Season 3, Adama is faced with an impossible situation. The human race is trapped on New Caprica under Cylon occupation. He is forced to abandon the planet temporarily, making what is arguably the most painful choice of his career, leaving his people behind to preserve the fleet. His eventual return, coordinating the daring rescue operation with his son Lee, shows his strategic brilliance and devotion to duty. But even in success, Adama is haunted by the cost of delay and the suffering endured by those he left behind. He grapples with the choices others have made, Roslin's reinstated presidency, the Circle's secret executions, and the trauma suffered by his crew. His decision to support a general amnesty rather than punish collaborators reflects his pragmatism, but also his weariness. He knows too well that vengeance will only deepen wounds that may never heal. Lee is no longer just a Viper pilot, or his father's second-in-command. He is now the commander of Battlestar Pegasus. While the human race is trapped under Cylon occupation on New Caprica, he is orbiting safely in space aboard the Pegasus, growing heavier, more distant, and visibly lost. His weight gain is not just physical, it symbolizes how burdened he is by guilt and powerlessness. He's not the brave, confident Apollo of earlier seasons. He's a man increasingly unsure of his purpose and ashamed of his perceived failure to act. Lee's turning point comes during the Battle of New Caprica. His decision to join the rescue mission after a tense standoff with his father is a powerful moment of redemption. It's not just about helping others. It's about becoming the hero again. When he finally sacrifices the Pegasus to save the fleet, it's a moment of heroism that reestablishes his commitment to the greater good. But it's also a symbolic shedding of what the Pegasus represented. Ego, independence, and detachment. Much of Lee's arc in Season 3 centers on questions of justice and morality. He grows increasingly disillusioned with the way leadership handles power. He's especially shaken by the secret executions carried out by the Circle in the aftermath of New Caprica. Lee doesn't want to be complicit in a cycle of revenge masked as justice. This culminates in one of his most powerful moments, his impassioned defense of Gaius Baltar at the trial in the season finale. That speech is more than just a legal argument. It's a manifesto for the kind of society Lee wants to help build. He argues not for Baltar's innocence, but for the survival of the rule of law, of fairness, of values that must persist even in desperate times. In that moment, Lee separates himself from both his father and Roslin. He is no longer merely their pawn. He is his own man, one who chooses principle over convenience, even when it's unpopular. Lee's personal life is equally turbulent. His marriage to Dee begins to crumble as he remains emotionally entangled with Kara Thrace. His relationship with Starbuck continues to be one of the most frustrating and tragic elements of the show. Two people who love each other deeply but can't stop hurting each other. This tension underscores Lee's emotional immaturity, but also his humanity. He longs for connection, but often doesn't know how to handle it. Starbuck begins the season as a prisoner on New Caprica, where she endures psychological torture. Trapped in a nightmarish replica of domestic life, Kara is pushed to the edge. The Oban plays mind games, manipulates her emotions, and even introduces a child he claims is hers. These scenes are among the most disturbing in the series, not just because of the physical captivity, but because of the psychological war being waged on her identity. She's forced to question her own memories, her instincts, even her sanity. This traumatic experience marks a turning point. When she finally escapes, she returns to the fleet not as a triumphant survivor, but as someone deeply damaged. Starbuck becomes increasingly reckless in combat, moody with friends and commanding officers, self-destructive in both her marriage and her friendships. Her relationship with Lee Adama reaches a toxic peak. They love each other, but the timing, circumstances, and their own emotional immaturity make the connection painful rather than healing. What's so tragic about Kara in Season 3 is that she seems to be fighting not just the Cylons or the war, but herself. Beneath her many layers is a core of self-loathing that she can't escape. She believes she's broken, cursed, unworthy of love or peace. She actively sabotages anything good in her life, whether it's her marriage to Anders, her bond with Lee, or her position in the fleet. Her pain is unspoken but visible in every impulsive action, every outburst, every drink she takes just to feel something. But there's something else at work too, something stranger. Starbuck begins having visions and dreams that hint at a greater destiny. She paints the eye of Jupiter before she's even seen it. She feels drawn to something she can't explain. She speaks of death with eerie calm. It's as if she knows she's not long for this world. And then, in one of the most shocking moments of the series, she dies. She's haunted by her abusive mother, by visions of a younger version of herself, by Leoben, by strange symbols in the clouds, and by a sense that she must let go. In a moment that confuses and terrifies those around her, she flies her Viper into a storm and disappears. Her death is devastating, but also ambiguous. There is no body, no wreckage, just an absence. Adama breaks down. Lee is crushed. The fleet mourns her. But for the audience, the feeling is more complicated. Starbuck's end doesn't feel like a final death. It feels like a threshold crossed, a transformation, a mystery opened. When Season 3 begins, Baltar is the puppet leader of New Caprica, a human colony under brutal Cylon occupation. Elected at the end of Season 2 by exploiting populist sentiment and false promises, Baltar quickly finds himself overwhelmed, passive, and paralyzed. He is not a tyrant in the traditional sense, but his cowardice enables tyranny. He signs orders for mass executions under Cylon pressure. He turns a blind eye to resistance efforts. He isolates himself, increasingly addicted to drugs, sex, and the delusion that he has no choice. And yet, Baltar is not entirely unsympathetic. He is, above all else, a survivor. His presidency on New Caprica is a nightmare of compromises, a test of his already shaky morality. He believes he has no real power, and tells himself that cooperation is the only way to save lives. But his actions, or inaction, cost lives and destroy what little credibility he had left. Even he cannot fully justify his behavior, and his inner voice, personified by the ever-present Head 6, constantly challenges his ego and guilt. After his rescue by the Cylons following the New Caprica exodus, Baltar becomes something even stranger. A human living among the enemy, a supposed prophet, a man whose identity fractures further with every step. His time aboard the Cylon base star is surreal. The Cylons see him as a curiosity, maybe a tool, perhaps even a religious figure. Baltar, as always, plays along, but increasingly unsure who he even is anymore. What's striking about Baltar in Season 3 is how much he loses, and how little he learns, until the very end. By the time he is returned to the fleet and put on trial for crimes committed during the New Caprica occupation, he is a hollow version of the man who once walked through the halls of power. The trial is less about legal guilt and more about collective rage and trauma. Everyone wants him to pay, they need a scapegoat, and Baltar, for once, cannot talk his way out of it. But it's during the trial that something unexpected happens. Baltar is given a real defense, thanks to Lee Adama. In one of the season's most powerful scenes, Lee argues that Baltar is guilty not because of his actions, but because the fleet needs someone to blame. It's not a redemption for Baltar, but it is a reminder. He is human, weak and flawed, but still human. He is a mirror of everyone's compromises and cowardice. When the Cylons occupy New Caprica, Tigh becomes one of the most prominent resistance leaders. He's a firebrand, uncompromising, driven by hatred for the Cylons, and an unshakable sense of duty. But he is also a man operating under extreme stress. He's imprisoned, beaten, and most notably, he loses an eye during his captivity. That injury becomes symbolic of his transformation. The loss of not just vision, but clarity, restraint, and emotional balance. While imprisoned, Tigh's only solace is his wife, Ellen. But Ellen, while trying to protect him, betrays the resistance by cooperating with the Cylons. When Tigh discovers this, he is devastated. His love for her is real, but his commitment to the resistance overrides everything else. In one of the most painful scenes in the series, he poisons her himself, forcing her to drink the wine laced with the toxin, telling her he forgives her, even as she dies in front of him. This moment defines Tigh's arc. It is not just the loss of his wife, it is the death of a part of himself. His loyalty has turned him into something monstrous. He sacrifices his love for a greater cause. But it's unclear whether that cause has truly justified the price. He survives, but he never recovers. After the exodus from New Caprica, Tigh returns to Galactica a changed man. He is bitter, deeply alcoholic, and consumed by rage. He distrusts authority and becomes obsessed with punishing collaborators. He plays a key role in the formation of the Circle, a secret tribunal that conducts summary executions of those accused of aiding the Cylons during the occupation. In these makeshift trials, Tigh becomes both judge and executioner. He believes he's protecting the fleet's moral integrity, but what he's really doing is projecting his own guilt and grief outward. The line between justice and revenge blurs completely. When the tribunal nearly executes an innocent man, it's a clear sign that Tigh and the others have lost their moral compass. Tigh's grief and guilt fester throughout the season. He lashes out at others, isolates himself, and descends further into alcoholism. His relationship with Adama becomes strained, and his role on Galactica becomes more symbolic than functional. He's not just a broken man. He's the embodiment of how war corrodes the soul. Tigh remains loyal to the cause, but he's no longer sure what that cause even is. At the start of the season, Tyrol is a member of the Resistance on New Caprica. He's brave, dedicated, and competent, but even in this setting we see cracks forming. He executes difficult missions under enormous stress and works side by side with Saul Tigh and Sam Anders. Once back aboard Galactica, Tyrol's focus shifts inward. He tries to resume a normal life. He has a son, a marriage to Callie, and his role as the chief of the deck. But nothing feels right. He becomes increasingly cynical and spiritually restless. One of the most telling episodes is Dirty Hands, where Tyrol is drawn into the class struggles of the fleet. He comes to realize that the people doing the dirty work are being systematically overlooked and oppressed. This realization hits hard because it resonates with his own identity. His growing resentment and guilt turn him into something dangerous, not just a union leader, but a revolutionary. He goes head-to-head with Adama, threatens a strike, and begins questioning the very legitimacy of the chain of command. At the same time, Tyrol's home life begins to crack. His marriage to Kaylee becomes increasingly strained. He's detached, prone to bursts of anger, and full of self-doubt. He no longer knows what he believes in. There's a quiet madness building in him, an existential anxiety that he cannot explain. He is searching for something, but has no idea what. That answer comes in the final episodes of the season, when a strange signal begins calling out the four individuals, Tigh, Anders, Tori, and Tyrol. They each begin hearing music that no one else can hear, growing more paranoid and disconnected from reality. It's not clear whether they're losing their minds or being drawn towards something greater. And then, the truth is revealed. They are Cylons. The moment Tyrol realizes he is one of the final five is one of the most jarring in the series. All his beliefs are shattered in an instant. He has spent his entire life fighting for a species he didn't know he wasn't part of. But unlike Baltar or Tigh, who crumble under this kind of revelation, Tyrol becomes almost eerily calm. The chaos of his emotions is replaced by a strange clarity. He is no longer angry, no longer searching. He has found the terrible answer he didn't even know he was looking for. In Season 3, Sharon and Carl stand apart from the rest of the fleet, not just as a couple, but as symbols of what humanity and the Cylons might become. At the core of their arc is Hera, their hybrid child. Half human, half Cylon, and more than anything, a living challenge to the boundaries both sides have drawn. At the end of Season 2, Sharon is made a colonial officer, trusted by Adama, and integrated into the fleet as Athena, a title she embraces to differentiate herself from her Cylon counterparts. Yet her trust is always conditional. Her loyalty is always questioned. She lives in a fragile space, human enough to be tolerated, Cylon enough to be feared. At the start of Season 3, Sharon believes that Hera, her daughter, is dead. The lie was orchestrated by Roslin and others in the fleet, who secretly gave Hera away, fearing what the child represented and doubting Sharon's loyalty. This lie defines much of Sharon and Helo's early arc in the season. Sharon continues to fight for the fleet, flying missions, taking orders, putting her life on the line. But beneath the surface, there's grief, suspicion, and a sense of being deeply alone. Helo, too, is isolated. Though human, he is treated with quiet disdain by many in the military for his relationship with Sharon. His morality often puts him at odds with the leadership. Most notably, he becomes the conscience of the fleet when he discovers the military is secretly using a biological weapon to wipe out a stranded group of Cylons. Helo sabotages the mission, not out of love for the enemy, but out of a deep belief that genocide is a line that should never be crossed. Then comes the turning point, the revelation that Hera is alive. When Sharon and Helo discover the truth, it's more than betrayal. It is a devastating violation of trust. Roslin, Adama, and the fleet leadership not only lied, they robbed Sharon of her child and Helo of his family. Sharon volunteers to infiltrate the Cylon base ship to rescue Hera. She confronts her own kind. She's no longer just a copy of a model. She's Athena, a mother, a soldier, and a bridge between two worlds. Her mission is dangerous and deeply personal, and she succeeds not just with force, but with conviction. She refuses to be a pawn of either side. By the end of Season 3, Sharon and Helo are reunited with Hera. But things are far from peaceful. They've won a small, personal victory. But the larger war rages on, and the lines of trust remain blurred. They are still outsiders in many ways, but they now stand as a family, and as proof that the future may not lie in destruction, but in something entirely new. So that's it. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time.